And it looks like we're recording. All right. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Daily Freedom School. My name is Fernando Lopes, your host, and today I have the pleasure and the honor of interviewing and chatting with Bijan Zayer, who's a doctor of organizational leadership. And we were chatting a few minutes before we started, and he shared the reason why he became who he is today and the vision he has for the future when it comes to organizational leadership and ethics. Bijan, thank you for taking the time for being here. Welcome. How are you today?
I'm well. Thank you very much, Fernando. Thank you for inviting me to participate in your program. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes. Please tell our listeners, viewers, a little bit about you. One reason I invited you is because of your book, which is right here behind us, Lead with Integrity. And he has seven pillars of how one can lead with integrity. Tell us a little bit about where you came from and how you became who you are today. I know it's a big question to ask, but you can
Absolutely.
Go wherever you like with that.
Yes, well, thank you very much. Yes, nothing is like wanting to talk about yourself, right? So anyway, yes, my academic training is in organizational leadership, and I've been teaching for various universities, organizational change, organizational behavior, and organizational ethics. As I've been teaching this organizational ethics, I wanted to write a book about a simple book about ethics and integrity. Because over the years, I have noticed that ethical standards have diminished among people and organizations. As a corporate coach, when I go to various companies, I notice that some of the things that they are doing that is working against them to be more successful than they are is about their values and principles. I know that those organizations that they value their employees, they have sets of values and principles they adhere to. So therefore, I thought if I can share this information, how to empower parents, managers, leaders, community leaders, as well as business owners to be ethical. So that way, they will be able to realize their happiness, joy in life without fear of any kind of wrongdoing. When we talk about people who act ethically while no one is watching, is so incredibly important and so freeing feeling that people don't need to worry about what they said or why they did what they did, because they were ethical to begin with. So the book is to help people to raise their consciousness about ethical behavior. That's simple. And some of those people may be ethical anyway. There are a lot of people who are very ethical in our society. But unfortunately, there are a lot of people also that they are not so ethical. And this affects and impacts their behavior as an individual, as a leader, as a teacher, as a parent. And as a result, they don't get what they want in life, which is joy and happiness and respect. And my hope was that I can part this knowledge and information in a very simple language, in a small little book, so that people can use when they are compelled to make some decisions. They are trying to become people who can be respected and they have honesty and integrity.
You can go at that.
Okay.
All right. So that was an unethical call. No, I'm joking. Bijan, you were sharing with me a couple of stories, and without mentioning names of companies, I remember one of the stories you shared with me was how a company was sued for maybe several hundred billions of dollars. I didn't know that was possible, but let's say 300 billion. It's not 300 billion, it's actually more. But this company was being sued for $300 billion for what?
Ethical violations.
Ethical violations.
And I will tell you how did this happen. This person was rear admiral for government, and she retired from government and came to work for this company as vice president of acquisitions. And when she started to work, she kept sending the contracts to this one particular company that she was working for. So as a result of that, this company kept getting all these contracts, while the rest of the companies that used to in the past compete were just standing and they were not getting any of the contracted work or subcontract. So finally, many of these people raised this curiosity, and this was reported to government, and government investigated and found out that this organization has violated the ethical standards for the company, which impacted their operation in relationship with government. There were many issues about this problem, but what we did, we create the ethics certification program and implemented that ethics certification program successfully, and the company was able to settle the problem, the lawsuit, with the government, and started operating ethically in the way they were contracting their services, and they were doing work for government. So this was really call of awakening for the organization to know that they had not paid attention to those ethical dilemmas that organization had. So consequently, with the program that we implemented, was able to train all those acquisition officers and educate them that what was the expectations of the company for ethical standards. And we prepared code of ethics for the organization so that everyone would adhere to those codes of ethics. Now, going back to the book basically enlightens people that where are they? Individually, organizationally, and how they can become ethical person. Now, please understand, we are not suggesting that people are unethical, no. But unintentionally, sometimes they do things that they are either flat unethical or they border with unethical and illegal arena. So our hope is to help companies, individuals, parents, teachers, managers to become more ethical so they can serve their community better and at the same time be happier people, respectful people, and realize that these 7 paths that was outlined by Fernando will help them to have these important elements, which it is about integrity, honesty, kindness, loyalty, compassion, justice, and forgiveness. Those 7 paths. And of course, when people in their life adhere to, even if not all, to most of those standards, I confidently can say that these people will be happy and they will have self-respect that who am I? What am I doing? Because that's probably the most important thing that we ask ourselves when we look at on the mirror, that who am I? What am I doing? And when we love ourselves and we care about who we are, then we gain this respect of the community that we serve, the students that we teach, employees that we manage or lead. So those are basically some of the motivating factors that's why I decided to write this book.
Thank you, Bijan. And just want to make it clear that actually Bijan was the person that was hired to go into that company and to deliver a ethics certification. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
An ethics certification for the officers.
Yes.
Of the company. So thank you for sharing, Bijan. You also mentioned another story about a big company that had about, I'm going to change the number here, over 25,000 employees walking out of the company because of an ethical violation.
Yes, that's very true. And one day, over 25,000 employees walked out in this company because of their ethical violation. And what was the ethical violation? Ethical violation was lack of equality between man and woman, how they treated men with their salary scale and how they treated women. Even though most men were not impacted with this because they were the beneficiary of higher salaries than women, but they understood, they cared for their colleagues who were women, and they joined them and walked out. And the organization suddenly woke up to this situation that they had created, either intentionally, unintentionally, or the standards that corporate America has created. So they agreed to make those alignments for men and women who work for their company to be equal.
Mm. And so we talked about then two companies that something bad happened or something happened and then they shaped up. What would you say to companies that have not had their wake-up call and to go into a preventive mode that they can start employing or continue to employ at a greater level into their organizational leadership, the idea of code of ethics, so that they don't have to have a wake-up call such as these two organizations had?
Thank you. Excellent question. First of all those companies that they have code of ethics, rarely they will violate those codes. But the unfortunate part of all this is only 14% of corporate America have those code of ethics. So my hope is that more of these companies will develop code of ethics for their organization, for their company's sake, as well as sake of those employees. So employees will feel comfortable if there is a violation to come forward, even if there was a violation. If there wasn't, then hopefully everything would be wonderful. So one day, when I was consulting with this company, I learned that there was a serious problem with companies' violation of their ethics and integrity of the organization. They had bribed the company, another company, to get the contract. And of course, there was a big investigation by the accounting organization. And when they were found guilty, the judge, before sentencing that vice president of the company, asked, "Did you actually do this? Did you bribe this company for over several million dollars?" He said, "Yes. Thank you for your honest answer." So end of the day, the hope is that companies will develop their own code of ethics so they can adhere to those. Because sometimes many of them have policies regarding ethical standards, but seldom people remember what those standards are. But code of ethics is very clear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are the standards that company is committed to adhere.
Wonderful. So only 14%, you said, of corporate America have?
Only 14%, yes.
Lots of opportunities there. And how would a leader of a company, a manager, then start the conversation or create code of ethics? How are code of ethics created?
Basically, every organization is committed to providing goods and services to their clients. And in that process, they have certain standards that they are do's and don'ts. Ethical standards are some things that when they are in print as a code, then people will be responsible to follow those. I have gone to companies that they had code of ethics hanging in their lobby. And that makes a big statement that this company is committed to adhering to those code of ethics. And every company is different. Of course, we provide the service as a coaching organization of leaders excelling to help those people to develop these code of ethics. Or they can design it themselves. We will be happy to review them and make sure that it is according to the standards that is defined by law for businesses to adhere to those ethical standards.
Wonderful. And I'm thinking here how then code of ethics, how important is it code of ethics in the hiring process?
Very important. I'm glad you asked that question, Fernando, because I was coaching this senior managers in this organization. And as part of my work with them, I learned that they were interviewing nurses. So one of the questions from the nurses was, tell us about the most difficult decision you had to make. So one of the nurses came out and said that I was helping this mother who had given birth to this child who had leukemia. And the mother had basically given up because in a young age, that child didn't have a chance to survive. And it was beyond capability of that mother to rear that child. But that nurse reached out to this pharmacologist in the organization and said, is it possible that you can develop this genome drug? Genome drugs are developed specifically to those symptoms and to those illnesses of those individuals. And pharmacologists agreed to do this. And then pharmacologists would meet regularly with this mother to assure her that this child, once they get this medical therapies with these medications that she had developed, not only child is going to be getting well, but child will have a normal life to live. This is a value. This is going over and beyond Call of Duty for someone to do who has the principle and values that they are upholding to help this mother to feel trusted that, yes, this organization, these people will help. And that child today is 8 years old. He's living a regular life. And mother is the happiest person she can be that this child has recovered from this illness.
Mm. So that's a beautiful, beautiful story, call of going above and beyond what is the responsibility. So what I gather there is that having certain protocols in the hiring process, include code of ethics, would then allow the employer to then choose candidates better.
Bravo. Yes. And today, this standard has become a standard for hiring, because not every nurse would reach out to the pharmacologist. This nurse went over and beyond call of duty, and that scientist, that pharmacologist, went beyond call of duty to do what they did to help this mother. So this type of commitment by that nurse became a standard for hiring and recruiting future nurses.
Wow. That's wonderful. I like to talk a little bit about the word integrity. And for people that may not have that word be spoken or be in their environment much, what is integrity?
Integrity is really very simple. Doing those things while no one is looking. No one is watching. Again, as I said, when we look on the mirror, us man, Fernando, at least look on the mirror one day when we are shaving. And ladies may look on the mirror many, many times during the day. And what we see on that mirror, you have to live with that. So doing the right thing while no one is watching, that's integrity. That's the meaning of person who beholds that sense of integrity, that I will do this without fear of violating these ethical violations.
Yeah, so you touched so you said a couple of things there. We could go a little deeper even. So you said the right thing and then fear. So then what are some, maybe a story or two of someone having the fear of doing the right thing and not doing, or maybe, and then another one, someone had the fear of doing the right thing and they still did the right thing?
You know, the unfortunate thing about violations is that when you violate something, then you are going to have to cover it up. Okay. Another example I will share with you to kind of elaborate and illustrate what this fear means. Telling the lies after one and after other to cover up to those things that we shouldn't have done to begin with. One of my coaching assignment was this organization where this lady brings her husband for chemotherapy, which is a pretty standard process. And they inject this man with 10 times more than what he was supposed to be injected. Like rather than 900 cc, 9,000 cc. And this chemo just froze the person and killed this individual. So when his wife came to pick him up, they said, "We are so sorry. Your husband had a bad reaction to chemo and he died." Just like that. But since this was unexpected, we are going to give you $65,000 to help you out. Of course, woman was so grateful. Never mind, of course, husband, she had lost a husband, but at least this organization was kind enough to think of the cost associated with this. And then later the news went out, and one of the newscasters came and put the mic front of the face of the chief of staff and said, "How did this person die?" And the chief of staff said, "We don't know, we are investigating." The truth is, chief of staff knew. Not only she knew that this violation had happened, but she knew which head nurse actually had requested that much. Because when the pharmacist had challenged the head nurse that, is this for one person? Why do you need this much? She said, I'm the head nurse. Don't argue with me, just send it up. And they sent this chemo, and they injected this person and died. So company basically went back on all the reports and blacked out this nurse's name. And consequently, about 6 months later, the nurse was promoted. So how is it that a person violates this ethical behavior and company covers it up? Unfortunately, this happens more than we know. So my hope is, through reading this book, we will raise the consciousness of every parent, every teacher, every manager, every nurse, every supervisor, so that they will act ethically and become person of integrity.
Yes, yes, I love that. I love that, for this book to be in the hands of many people, especially in the healthcare, because people like me, I don't work in the healthcare industry. But now that you're saying this, I'm just imagining how many thousands of people go through chemo every day. And then there are professionals that need to make the call, like how much medicine to inject each person's body while they go through the machine or radiation. And each of those judgment calls, how they're being made by each individual. If is it rational? Is it irrational? How is the individual mentally and emotionally at the moment of making that decision? So I'm thinking that code of ethics could help shape even the person's well-being, to then have the courage to say, hey, I'm not in the space to make the call right now. I'm not emotionally or mentally clear to be working, even to have that type of courage to assess oneself. Am I doing the right thing right now?
Absolutely. Yeah, you are absolutely correct. So the end of the day, the individual have to question that this action I took, was it ethical? That's it. And I suggest when people have to make those decisions, just be mindful and pause, just to pause and decide, is this ethical? If answer is no, or maybe don't do it. Because unfortunately, we see that when people violate these ethical standards and cause a lot of difficulties for communities, for people, and ill feelings about organizations, that they have served the community well, but unfortunately now they may have a black eye because of that violation.
Mm, indeed. So the question is this ethical?
Bravo. Yes.
Is this ethical?
Ethical behavior. Yes.
And if people want to get in touch with you, learn more about you, get the book, inquire about your services and coaching, how can they do so?
Yes, book is available through Amazon, and you can find it under Lead with Integrity with my name, Bijan Zayer. And about my services, I have a coaching organization. It's called Leaders Excelling. Leaders Excelling, that I will be at your service, and I will be happy to meet with you for consultation and offer our services.
Do you meet in person, over Zoom?
Either way, I'll be happy to accommodate the individuals and companies based on their needs. If it is in person, we can meet in person, or we can meet with Zoom, or we can start with the telephone call.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'm going to put the Bijan's links below, so you can check on the show notes for his information. Bijan, any last thoughts before we conclude this amazing ethical conversation?
Well, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure to be here. And again, I am committed to help individuals. So please let me know how I can help you.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you, Bijan.
Thank you.
Folks, thank you for tuning in. If you're watching, listening, please like, share, and maybe put a comment below one takeaway you've had from this conversation. Maybe if you have more than one takeaway, then yes, right away, comment away, and let us know how you found this valuable. Thank you, Bijan, for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Fernando, for the opportunity.
Yes,
it was my pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Have a great week, and bye-bye for now.